Hey there, I am back with another deck review, and today we're going to be looking at Solstice, the November deck from the King's Wild Shorts line. And I've talked about King's Wild Shorts a bunch on the channel already, but if you haven't checked them out, you really should. King's Wild Shorts is the premier subscription service from King's Wild project and designer Jackson Robinson. And every single month, Jackson produces a unique and inspired deck of cards. It's really the series where he lets his creativity run wild, experimenting with different design concepts and even production techniques to produce decks that really amaze, for me, every single time out. So check them out if you haven't already. Now, where a lot of the decks in the series are more one-off decks, this particular one for this month is actually the continuation, or I should say the culmination of a series, a 4-deck series following the summer and or the seasonal solstice and equinox events. The very first deck in the King's Wild Shorts line was the Equinox 1 deck, and it celebrated the autumnal equinox. He's since followed that up with decks looking at the spring equinox and the summer solstice, and now closes out with this one celebrating the winter solstice. So what is the solstice? Solstice is basically the day where the northern hemisphere has the shortest daylight hours of the entire year. And that's because basically the Earth is tilted with the northern hemisphere furthest from the sun. It basically tilts on its axis back and forth throughout the course of the year. And on December 21st this year, it'll actually be tilted completely away from the sun. That means that it gets less sunlight, has the shortest day of the year. So it's kind of symbolic of basically being in the dead of winter. And so that's the theme behind this deck, closing out this seasonal series. Now, I get 2 different versions of the deck. There's the standard version and this white tuck over here, and then this blingy tuck over here is the limited version. We're gonna look at both tucks, but the cards inside are the same. So I'm just gonna look at the cards from the standard version. We'll get a chance to take a look at both decks in turn. So let's jump right into it. All right, starting with the standard tuck, and here it is. And it is a really clean and simple tuck, very much in keeping with the style of the previous decks. It's just a plain white tuck case, matte finish, and the only design elements are just these debossed pieces here. So you've got the debossed name of the deck, and it's done in holographic foil. Hopefully that's coming up on camera. This isn't silver foil, this is holographic foil right there in the center. Really striking, simple, clean look to it. Sides of the tuck have nothing at all printed on them. And then on the back, all plain white except for that one holographic element with the debossed snowflake in the center. Very beautiful, clean, striking look, very fitting for winter. Nothing printed on the top, and on the bottom you just have, again in holographic foil, some of the ad copy for the deck for King's Wild Project, Jackson Robinson, and as well mentions that this is, like a lot of the recent decks from Jackson, printed by the Expert Playing Card Company. Nothing at all on the inner flaps, just that clean, pure white all the way through. The beautiful, simple tuck case. Now the limited version of the tuck though does amp it up quite a bit, and it brings in a lot of those holographic elements all the way around the tuck. It's done in 2 parts here. The bottom third is this striped pattern, all done in holographic foil. And then the top is this repeated, almost kind of a wallpaper pattern, all very clearly inspired by snowflakes to form that design. And again, all done in holographic foil. Gives the entire deck a beautiful glow to it. And that wraps all the way around the tuck case. The only thing breaking it up is this black sticker that wraps around 3 sides of the tuck, giving you the name of the deck, Solstice by Jackson Robinson. On the side mentions it's a 2020 deck. And on the back, you can see the numbering here for the limited run of 500 decks. And I have number 265. You do get some ad copy again on the bottom, this time on a bright holographic sticker. A little bit hard to read there, but it's all there. And that completes the limited tuck. So beautiful addition, and very much in keeping with some of the previous decks in the series. In fact, this is the one from earlier this year in May, was the Summer Solstice deck. And this is what that one looks like. So you can see those side by side and definitely see how the two are sort of inspired as cousins of each other, if you will. So that is the 2 tuck cases. Beautifully done, great, very much in keeping with the theme of this series overall. But let's take a look at the cards. Like I said, cards are the same between the two versions, so no differences at all. We'll start with the back design. And once again, very much like some of the previous decks that we've seen Jackson working on lately, a lot of holo foil brought to the game on this one. He's been playing around a lot with foil in his decks. If you look going back, Legal Tender deck, there was the VHS deck from earlier this year. So lots of foil in his decks, and this one really takes it to another level. It's a borderless design, again, really clearly inspired by snowflakes. You can see snowflakes made out there in this repeated pattern, and it's all done in that holographic foil. Beautiful shine to the deck overall. And where I think holographic foil can be a little bit over the top and almost distracting on decks in some cases, I think in this one, particularly in keeping with that winter theme, I think it really lends itself well to this theme. I think it was a great choice, really shines and just shows off that theme really, really well. So very ethereal look to it overall. Love the borderless design, really nicely executed. There's the back design. Extra cards, you get 2. So these are your 2, I guess you would call them your jokers. The first one features an abstract sun, this kind of circular element here with the radiating out circles, all done in holographic foil again. Nice shine to that. It says, lead a quiet life underneath. That's just an excerpt from the Thessalonians Bible verse that Jackson claims as his own. And then the other one has that same sun element, but then below it, you can see an abstract representation of the Earth in its orbit. And then it's casting a shadow, which is clearly inspired by the back design of the cards. So there's your 2 jokers. Beautifully done. Again, very much in keeping with the Solstice and Equinox line of decks. All right, now here's your aces. The ace of spades is the power ace of the deck. Features a very simple black spade pip in the center, nice and large, has the name of the deck Solstice in the center, but everything surrounding it is really what kind of amps it up, giving you more look of that holo foil. So you have these laurel leaves that kind of wrap around the sides, all done in holographic foil. And then this banner that runs from top to bottom in the background, almost like a watermark. And it's a very faint holographic foil. And then again, mirroring the back design of the cards. So hopefully that shows up, but nice banner running across from the top to the bottom. You have the pip and index in the corner, pretty standard shape, but they are also lined with a nice thin border of holographic foil, which really helps them pop and stand out. And you'll see here the background of the card isn't a pure white. It's more of like a dingy gray or like a light or a dark, really faint blue or something like that. Kind of like you would find with dirty snow. And just so you can see, here's the comparison, right? So this is the pure white that's on the tuck case, and then the little bit dingier look for the background here. So just a slight change for that one. The other 3 aces are amped up as well with that banner of holographic foil, but they feature just the smaller pip in the center, no other ornamentation around it. So there's your other 3 aces, all beautifully done. All right, now going to the number cards. The number cards don't have a lot of customization. Obviously the pips and the index up here are all bordered in that holographic foil. That's really the element that gives it pop. But other than that, pretty standard pip placement and orientation. Nothing too out of the ordinary on these. These are slightly custom pips, ones that Jackson's used in other decks before, but nothing so bizarre or unrecognizable on these. You just get some slightly kind of squishier, more rounded corners on some of these parts. So there's your diamond pips, and then that's what the clubs look like. And then the one pip that I think looks a little bit odd or interesting is the heart. And you see the heart kind of has this little squishy look to it. Almost looks like a gem instead of a heart pip. But there's your heart pips, finishing out with the 10 of hearts. So there's the number cards. And now the court cards. Now, if you've seen the previous Equinox or Solstice decks, you'll recognize the design. This is the same basic design that he's used on those other decks, so it's keeping in line with the theme, but they've been recolored to fit the winter solstice theme. I really like the clean lines and clean design elements that he uses on these cards, while keeping them still very much inspired by the classic quartz that you'd find. So they're definitely recognizable, but they're all redrawn and very, very clean styling to them. you'll see that it brings in lots of holographic foil, and even on parts of the clothing, you'll see it brings in that snowflake element for the back design. Now, some of these where it looks like just flatter foil on these sections, there actually is a really faint design, and it's probably not even showing up on camera. It doesn't show up very well even in person, but there is in these flatter parts a little bit of a design. It's just a lot fainter than it is in these other sections. So there's the Queen of Spades. And then here, I love how the sword is also done in foil. Nice touch. And then here's what the diamond quartz look like, bringing in more foil, really minimal use of color other than that foil. That foil is really the primary use of color. The only exception is you'll see a couple of areas where this blue color is brought in. But otherwise, just black and white designs, letting that foil do the talking. So there's your clubs and into your hearts. It's a nice familiar but beautifully redrawn quartz all the way around. So that is the deck. I think it's a really well executed deck. I love the series overall. I think it's a really beautiful and elegant series that Jackson's produced with these. Now, as far as handling, these are produced by Expert Playing Cards, and if you've seen some of their foil decks before, you know they can be somewhat prone to clumping. But if you haven't tried out their decks recently, I recommend giving them a shot. This is greatly improved from some of the other decks. Definitely still get a little bit of clumping like in Fans. They don't handle as well, but they handle significantly better than they have in the past. Expert's really starting to improve that significantly. So kudos to them for that. Now, I will say it is a very thick deck. This is a thicker than usual deck. Maybe not as thick as a couple of the decks that Jackson's produced, but this is really up there. So much thicker. That means that the deck's gonna be a lot stiffer, harder to use for springs and fans. But all in all, definitely some good slide to the cards. And I like the direction they're going with these. So a little bit harder to use, definitely a thicker deck, and you see that even right off from the tuck case. But nice job with the handling overall, given the fact that it's a fully foiled deck. So that is it. Now, as far as uses of this deck, look, certainly you could use this right for gameplay. You could use this for cardistry and things like that. But I think more than anything, this is really going to be primarily for most people a collector's deck. That's really what most of the King's Wild Shorts line lives. So that really is where I'd recommend it. That said, hey, if you really want to make your poker game that much more special, you could certainly break these out and they're going to turn heads. But anyway, that's it for now. That is the look at Solstice from the King's Wild Shorts line. Hope you enjoyed, and hey, make sure to subscribe for more deck reviews and unboxings. Let me know what else you want to see, and I'll see you for the next one.